this is my friend Lindsay. What we're going to do is show you how to make a line plot, use a line plot, and then we're going to ask you some questions about a line plot. A line plot is a type of graph. You can familiar with a pictograph, a bar graph, and now I'm going to show you how to use a line plot. A line plot, instead of using pictures or bars like you would do on a bar graph or pictograph, we're going to use X's to show the data we collect. The first thing you need to do when making a line plot is to come up with a subject that you want to collect data on. What me and Lindsay decided to collect data on is how many hours a teacher spends on a computer each day. Here we have a poster board. That we're going to put our line plot on. Since we're basing our line plot on how many hours a teacher uses the computer each day, our title is going to be Hours Teachers Use Computers Daily. While she's writing that, how we're going to lay the line plot is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 and plus. 8 and plus means that they spend 8 hours or more on there. Now that we have the basic parts of our line plot made, we have to collect the data. In order to do this, we're going to go around to other teachers' classrooms and ask them how many hours they usually spend on the computer. They'll have to round their answers to the nearest hour so that we have room for it on our line plot. For instance, they can't say 1.5 hours because we don't have that on our line plot. How many hours do you use the computer, including at your house?
Including at night, probably, I would say 6 hours a day. Does it have to be all the time? 6 constant hours? Or can I go on it and get off of it?
On and get off.
Okay, I would say 6 hours.
So we put an X above the 6 to represent how many hours a day Miss Insco uses her computer, including at home. So Miss Wood, how many hours a day, including at home, do you usually use your computer? It can be start and stop or on and off.
Would that be for just time I spend on schoolwork?
I'd say yes.
Yes, okay. Let's see, let me think. I think that would probably be about 5 hours.
So what I just did is that I put an X above the 5 to represent how many hours Miss Wood uses her computer. Miss Hamlin, how many hours a day do you spend on your computer?
I would say 7.
Okay.
And what are you doing with this information?
We're putting it on a line plot to show to Miss Hates Graduate School.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we put an X over the 7 to represent how many hours a day Miss Hamlin spends on her computer. So Miss Harrison, how many hours do you use the computer at home and at school?
I would say about 6 hours a day.
So I'm putting an X over the 6 on top of Mrs. Insco's to represent how many hours a day Miss Harrison uses her computer. So Miss Halensky, how many hours a day at school and at home for schoolwork do you use your computer?
I would say on an average day, probably 2 to 3 hours.
Which one do you want to round up to? 2 or 3?
I'll say 3. Probably at least an hour here at school.
So what I'm doing is that I'm putting an X above 3 for Ms. Podolinsky. Ms. Kaplan, how many hours a day do you use your computer for schoolwork?
For schoolwork, I probably use my computer 3 hours a day.
So what I'm going to do is going to put an X above the 3. So I'm going to see, how many hours a day do you use a computer at home and at school?
Together, I probably use them about 4 hours a day.
Okay, so what I'm doing is putting an X above the 4 to represent how many hours Miss Ely uses her computer. So Miss Hammonds,
Yes, ma'am.
how many hours a day, home and school, for schoolwork do you usually get on your computer?
For schoolwork?
Yes.
Well, at school I spend a lot of time on the computer. Probably, I would say 3. I'm looking at these choices. Yes, thank you for the choices. That was very helpful. I have to think, because I couldn't say 3.5.
I just put down 3 for Miss. Miss Sun, how many hours a day do you use the computer at home and at school?
Well, I don't use the computer at home because when I leave work, I'm very tired. So I would say probably about 2 hours a day total at school.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an X above the 2 to represent how many hours Miss Sutton uses her computer per day. So like we're going to ask all the teachers. Now we're going to figure out how many hours each teacher has guessed. So nobody put 0 hours, so we're going to leave that blank. And nobody else uses a computer for 1 hour, so we're going to leave that blank. One person used the computer for 2 hours, so we're going to put a 1 over that. For number 3, I'm going to have to count because there's a lot. So I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to put 5 over that many X's because there's that many teachers use the computer for 3 hours. Next we're going to do 4. 1, 2 people use the computer for 4 hours, so I'm going to put a 2 above it. For 5, there's 2, just the same as 4 because they line up. So we're going to put 2 over the 5 hours off of it. The same with 6. So we're going to put another 2 over these. There's a lot of people who use it for 4, 5, or 6 hours. For 7, there's only 1 because, nobody can stand looking at your computer for the screen for 7 hours straight. So we're just going to put 1 over the 7. Nobody did it for 8 plus because obviously you can't look at the computer for that long. So we're just going to leave that. I'm going to ask you some questions about that. So I hope you're paying attention. The first question is, how many teachers are represented on this line plot? Look at it very closely. And count. Or you could set these in an orderly fashion and add them. Either way is fine. If you look very, very closely, the answer will come very easily. Okay, if you said 13, you're correct. Hey, Ellen, want to ask a question? Sure. Another question that we have is how many hours do the most teachers use their computers? If you guess 3, you're correct. Hey, Lindsay, you want to ask another question? Sure, why not? How many hours do the least amount of teachers use their computers? If you said 0, 1, and 8 plus, you are correct. Hey, Emily, you want to ask me another question? Sure. This is your last question. How many teachers use their computers for 1 hour a day? If you guess 0, you're correct. Congratulations. You just learned how to make and use a line plot. You did a great job. Thank you for watching this video of how to make a line plot by Lindsay and Emily.